Today, we got a special video. Not really that special, but it's just another video. We're finna just talk about what my passions have taught me about life, my life specifically, but just life in general. And this video is kind of just to give you guys some things to think about, maybe a different perspective on how to look at things and just take things for what they are and then use it to your advantage, basically. So I'm a very passionate person. I'm a very talented person. I feel like I can do everything. I'm pretty good at everything. I wouldn't say I'm the greatest at everything, but I'm pretty good at everything. I can understand a lot. I feel like I can talk about this because I've been and did a lot of things in my life, and I wasn't always the greatest at these things, but I wasn't terrible, and I've used these things to ultimately help my life and to better my life, whether I was successful in it or not. I have 3 topics today. We're going to talk about, basketball and sports in general, what that has taught me. We're going to talk about, arts and clothes and, my brand. We're going to talk about that and just how you really need your mind to be open for that. Then we're going to talk about people. I feel like I'm very passionate about people, and I've always said this since I was younger. I've always felt like I was connected to people. I'm a person that people feel open talking to. People kind of just share their whole life story, or they might trauma dump on you. I'm that person. I make people feel comfortable because I can relate to them, and I have a deep understanding of people. So I'm very passionate about people. And when I was doing sales, I really liked that because sales is a lot about people and knowing how to interact with people. So we're going to talk about those, starting with sports. When I was younger, I played basketball and football. I started when I was maybe 4 or 5, and I've been playing basketball ever since then to senior year of high school, and then I quit football my freshman year. And football was actually my favorite sport. I liked playing football more than basketball. I was better at football than I was at basketball. But I quit my freshman year because the high school team I was on, I'm going to be honest, they weren't playing me, and I felt as if I was better. I felt, like I was getting downplayed, and I was smaller, and I had a lot of excuses and reasons why I quit. Looking back, I probably shouldn't have quit. It probably would have been fun, but, I don't regret anything. I obviously did it for a reason, and I made that decision, and I trusted the fact that I made that decision, right? So, sports, a lot of you guys could probably relate. A lot of you guys may be playing sports, but as I told you guys in the beginning, I wasn't the greatest, right? I wasn't the best ever. There was one team I was on when I was younger where I was the best and I was leading that team, and that was in 2nd, 3rd grade. I was very good basketball player, and I was quick, and I was faster than everybody. I was better than everybody, and I was leading my team, right? I'm just gonna tell you guys the story, how sports have kind of impacted my life and how I look at it now, right? I was the best on the team when I was very young, and I was really good at basketball. I really loved basketball. I really love sports in general, right? But then I got recruited to a better team, right? I got recruited to a better AAU team, and on that AAU team, I was told and I was forced to be more of a role player. I wasn't the best. I wasn't, I just wasn't the best anymore. And, the coach, he put me in a position where I had to play a specific role, and I had to use, my speed and my aggressiveness and all these, and my defensive IQ, and he kind of made me turn into a role defensive player. And that shift was very important in me and my life because I remember at the time, it was very hard for me to get over the fact that, nobody wanted me to play offense. Nobody wanted me to, contribute offensively, they only looked at me as a defensive player. And then from that happening, it struck my confidence in basketball like forever. Like I never played basketball the same after those years on the AAU team, just because I went from, being a lead offensive player on a team to being on a better team, but I was playing more of a defensive role. And it was very, very humbling for me. It was very like, damn, like I can't do anything about it because, this is coach's decision. But I still love basketball, and I love the people that I met on the team. I stayed on that team, but I soon quit, I think, in like 7th grade just because of that fact. Like, I never played basketball the same after that. It was really weird, and it was a really weird like difference for me, right? Yeah, I went from an offensive player to a defensive player, and mentally and at the time, like, that was not something I wanted to do. And if you know me and you guys know me now, I'm telling you that I'm the type of person where I like to do things my way. I like to have my way, and I don't like getting told that I can't do something, right? I don't like that at all. And at the time, I was having a blast, but I didn't like the role I was playing. And I didn't like the fact that, nobody was working with me on like my offensive skills. Nobody cared to work with me on my offensive skills. Nobody saw, my offensive threat, and nobody cared, right? And from that young age, I realized that people only care when you're at a certain level. People only really care about you and what you're doing when you're doing good, when, you're good, right? There's people on the team that were just better than me, and they just got more attention, Everybody worked with them, and it's not like they loved basketball more than me. It wasn't like that. It was just more the coaches saw the potential in them and not me. And I had to get over the fact that, not everyone's going to see my potential. I had to get over the fact that I couldn't just sit there and cry about it, right? So moving on to high school, when I played basketball, I knew that I was good at defense because I played on a high-level team as a defensive player. But, I was always learning from my teammates how to play offense, and I had the IQ from being on a high-level team that I brought onto my high school team. And when I was on high school, like, I understood roles. I understood how to be successful on a team. Even on my high school team, I wasn't the best offensive threat, but I always was on that next level because I had the IQ, I had the skill set, and I knew what I was doing, and I knew how to play my role to get the time I wanted. See, I didn't want to be a bench player. I knew that I had to play a specific role if I wanted to get time. So in high school, I starting point guard, and I would basically, I was just like a smart point guard who could play really good defense, and I stayed on the court because I brought energy to the team. I brought chemistry to the team on the court, and I knew how to be a leader on the court. That was a very humbling experience for me, but it did teach me a lot, and now I don't look at that experience as negative at all. Everything as you go through life is a learning experience, and you realize this through sports, you realize this through everything. Your downs are only downs if you just make them downs, but a lot of downs are actually ups. Now for football, I loved football. That was my sport. I was really, really good at it. But like I said, when I came to high school, they weren't playing me. And that was the first time I had quit something I loved. That was the first time I had quit on myself in a way. It was really weird when I did it, but I was sure that I didn't want to play for them. And in the back of my head, like, if a different opportunity came up at the time, I would have went back and played. But I knew that if they couldn't see that they needed to play me on that shitty ass team, it just wasn't even worth it because one, I was undersized, I was the running back. So if I were to play offense anyways and I was on a shitty team, the blockers can't block shit, I would have got hurt, right? So I was kind of thinking for my future and the fact that I would have better experience playing basketball in high school just because like, so I quit football, but you know, that was weird. Quitting on yourself is not a good feeling. And I know now that once I commit to something that I can't quit because of football. When I quit football, it was like quitting on myself, and I feel like I'm always gonna have a slight regret for it. I'm always gonna feel some type of way about it because I never should have quit because now I don't know how far I would have made it. You know, you never want to be able to ask that question, you know, like what if? What if? That what if question kind of hurts once you actually follow through with quitting or quitting whatever you're doing. You never know. So basketball, that kind of just came to an end at the senior year. I was kind of just like over it. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted to start businesses. I wanted to start making money, and I wanted to grow as a person in a different way than being an athlete, right? Now, sports also taught me like work ethic, and it taught me about people. The work ethic it takes to play sports, it's like you're always busy. Your whole life you're busy. You have practices all week and you have school all week. You're stuck in a routine and you have things to do. You have things to get done. And you have to compete for your spot. Sports taught me that if you don't lock in to your sport, you're not going to play, and it's going to end up being a waste of time for you. You know, I was playing sports because I wanted to have the best time, but it wouldn't have been the best time if I wasn't working, if I wasn't competing, because I'm half-assing. I didn't want to half-ass anything. I didn't want to, be trash. I didn't want to be trash. I didn't want to suck. And I've always been that way. I've never wanted to just suck at something. So it taught me that you have to put the work in, and you have to compete with the people around you, and you have to get to certain levels for people to respect you. In basketball, or not even basketball, but in sports in general, whatever sports you're playing, there's people at certain levels, and they don't actually recognize you or your talent until you get to that level. And the only way you could get to that level is working. And the reason why I'm talking about this right now is because sports relates a lot to life, and I've heard that student athletes are very, very successful when it comes to just life in general, just because of the mindset we have and what we know about working hard and getting to certain levels to compete. And a lot of people in this world don't actually compete. They don't take life competitive at all, and that's a lot of the reason why they're going to fail. But there's people who, just don't care enough to compete. They don't care about their life, and they don't understand that when they're not competing, people are getting ahead of them, and people are working harder than them and achieving more than them, right? They don't understand that. And then they're going to ask themselves, why am I not succeeding? Why am I not getting the results? Why am I not getting this? Why am I not getting that? But it's truly because you're not competing. You're not a competitive person. You have to be a competitive person to win at life. And I'm not saying beat other people, but I'm saying beat yourself. You got to win. You got to want the best life for you. But in order for you to do that, you have to compete with not only yourself, but the others around you. Because when you're competing with others around you, you're able to level up. You're able to understand what you need to do, what other people are doing, right? I was talking to my homeboy, like a while ago, and he plays basketball. He plays D1 basketball, right? And I remember I brought up a good point. For some reason, when I talk to my friends, like my points don't get off as I want them to. But I was talking to him, and we were talking about how our lifestyles are like different, right? I'm like an entrepreneur. I just need to make a lot of money so I can live the life I want, right? That's my mindset. Like the money is the key to, living a free life in this world. Not spiritually, but in this world, money is the key for you to not feel stressed out, right? So we were talking about how our lives are different, blah, blah, blah. And I remember bringing up to him, like, do you think talent beats hard work, right? We were having that kind of conversation, right? And I was like, you should not work harder, but you need to be putting in extra time. You got to be putting in more hours than your teammates, more hours than other people you're playing against. And he was like, give me excuses, blah, blah, blah. He was talking, and I was just like, right. But he was like, your lifestyle is different. Your lifestyle is this, your lifestyle is that, right? And I was like, yeah, that's true. But I can name your competition. I can name people who are working harder than you, and that's why they're better than you, right? And that's why they're farther than you. See, that's the difference. When you're competing, truly competing, it's like you know who your competitors are. You know who you have to beat to get to that next level. And I brought that point up to him because I can name fucking D1 players who are working harder than him, but that's why they have the name they do, right? That's why they have the name they do, because they truly care more. That brings me to my next point. Entrepreneurship is another passion of mine. Since I was younger, I've always said I want to be an entrepreneur. I've always wanted to own businesses. I've had, my dad was like a businessman. My goddad was a businessman. And I've always looked up to both of them. They both passed away, but, they've always been huge role models in my life, especially my goddad, because I knew him longer than my dad. But just a big inspiration to me, and I wanted to be an entrepreneur my whole life. I've always been saying that. I wanted to be my own boss. I didn't want people to be able to tell me what to do, when I could do it, and how to do it. I wanted to learn for myself and create a life for myself. And that's the reason I wanted to be an entrepreneur. So at the end of senior year, I've always had this mindset, by the way. But at the end of senior year, I started landscaping. I started a landscaping business with a business partner. And through that business, what I learned, this was my first actual business I started, by the way. But through that business, what I actually learned was that entrepreneurship is not easy at all. It's not easy. It's not an easy process, and it's not something that you can get done easily. It's not something that you just jump right into. It's something you have to learn. And I don't think I necessarily thought it was easy, but I didn't necessarily understand what it took to be successful, right? People underestimate how many hours you actually have to put in, how much work you actually have to put in, and what you actually have to do, right? So when I started this landscaping business, my business partner, he was an entrepreneur himself, but he was very, very smart. He was a smart guy, and he taught me a lot about it. And what I learned was that, the learning is no joke. You got to really study this shit. You got to really get good at this shit. Or, like I said, your competitors are going to beat you. You can't market something and not know about your competitors. You can't sell something and you can't have a price that's better than your competitors, or a deal that's better than your competitors, right? You have to learn a lot of niche skills. You got to learn a lot of things about your business, right? It's all about your knowledge. It's all about what you have in your brain, having a clear mind, and being precise and being consistent with whatever you're working on. And I learned this through entrepreneurship and this one business that I had. At the same time, I had a business mentor. She was great, and she taught me how you have to be organized and how you have to, take good notes, and how you have to, it's a lot of little things that you have to learn about entrepreneurship, but that goes into a lot about life. You see, to be successful at anything, even life, you have to learn. You have to have knowledge, and you have to be able to be consistent, and you got to learn the little things. Little things turn into big things, right? Through that journey and through that, my first business and my mentor, I learned the possibilities, right? This was my first year out of high school, and I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know. At the time, senior year, I've never even seen $1,000, right? I've barely even seen, the highest money I've seen was maybe $700, right? In my bank account to my name. So at the time when I'm learning how to landscape, he was teaching me how you have to be professional about things. You have to be consistent. You have to do things that other people aren't doing, which is drinking, smoking, partying, being distracted. And I also learned that you have to have God in your life. But we'll get more into that because I learned that at the end of the summer, kind of. So we're going to get more into that. But he was teaching me about God even. And throughout this whole process of me actually diving into what it took, I started seeing an exceptional amount of money that I've never seen in my life. I was making good money for my age at the time and for myself. I've never seen $1,000 before high school. So after I came out of summer and I was making like a 1 to 5K a week, I was astonished. And I realized that once you put in the work and you're consistent and then you start seeing progress and you start seeing momentum, one, you don't want to kill that momentum. And a mistake I made is when I was making all this money, I went on a couple of vacations and I was spending it. And when I went on vacation, I killed momentum and I lost a lot of it. I lost a lot of it. I spent it all, right? And I lost momentum, and I kind of it was very hard for me to get back into that groove because of all the momentum I lost, right? In total, that business and starting that journey, this entrepreneurship journey, it's I understood that you can make an exceptional amount of money within a short amount of time. So once I understood that, and once I understood that once you just put the time and the work in and you're actually learning a skill and something that's profitable and something that's, works, that you can make a lot of money in a short amount of time, which confirmed the fact that I was never going to work a job. It just didn't make sense. After that, I was just why would I ever work a job when I just made, $2,900 in one day? Why? It doesn't make sense. So that's what that taught me. It taught me the possibilities, and it taught me the skill sets you have to have and the consistency you have to have and the grit you have to have. A lot of people are going to doubt you. A lot of people are going to say that's not working. You got to be focused and you have to have tunnel vision. You got to be focused on your own grind. People, once you start making it, once you start realizing these things, you're going to understand that people don't see what you see. They're not doing what you're doing. So it's impossible for them to understand your life and how much you're making in this short amount of time, and they're gonna think that you're delusional and you're being risky and all this bullshit. But at the end of the day, it's not any of that. It was just you locked in for 3, 6, 12 months. That's all it really is. Once I realized that, I was kind of just fuck it, it's up from here. Clothes and arts, right? Clothes and arts, you have to have some type of creativity in you. People that don't have creativity in them are very dull people. They don't see the world as you see it. If you're a creative person, you see the world differently. If you're a creative person, you can create a reality for yourself that's unique to you. And I think that, from one of my grandmas, my white grandma, she was a very artistic person. She put me in, theater. She put me in pottery class, and just I was drawing, painting at her house and stuff like that. But, it's very important that you're creative. It's very important that you can think outside the box. It's very important that your mind has space to be creative. A lot of us and a lot of people in this world, whether you're rich or not, they might make a lot of money, but they don't have space in their head for creativity. A lot of their mind consumes of just work, do the work. But once you realize how effective having creativity is, you're going to understand that, there's more to life than just work. There's more to life than just work, money, right? You're going to find out that life is actually very, very beautiful and that you could do literally anything, right? As long as you're creative. Clothes is just my way of expressing how I feel, how I feel, how I feel as a person, right? That's my way of expressing it. And that's why I'm starting a clothing brand, because I want to see how I can put that expression out into the world and see people wearing it. I want to see people with that coming out of my mind. Like, I'm putting things that are going on in my mind and visualizations I have going on in my mind out into the world. And it's very important, because that's how you have influence and shit like that, right? You're going to understand that once you start being creative, that you're going to need more space in your mind to actually be creative. A lot of us are focused on work, that our mind consumes of just work. So when I was in college and I tried working on my brand a little bit, it was very difficult for me, because I was just locked in previously on, a business or whatever I was working on. I was just work. And I needed that time to myself and that time to think to myself and to calm down my mind, because I couldn't be creative, right? It's a roadblock when you work all the time and not creative a little bit. Yeah, it adds some color to your life. It just makes your life a little bit better. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is people, right? Like I was saying in the beginning, I'm a person where other people will come and trauma dump to me openly, or they'll just start telling me life, or they might be comfortable around me, right? Now, I will say, and I do need to get better at this, I love people so much, but I feel like so much has been going on these last year, two, with myself, that I haven't really been able to interact with people the way I want to. That's been something I've been trying to learn. I've been so focused on myself and so focused on what I want to do with my life, and so much going on in my life, that I have been like avoiding people, or like not really interacting with people the way I want to. That has been a big journey for me as well, like just figuring out my personality. And that's a big reason why content was so weird for me at first, because I never knew what I was good at. Now I know that I can now I know to be myself, blah, 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 right? But before, when I was doing content on TikTok and YouTube, blah, 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 it was like I didn't know who to be, and I just didn't know how to act. I didn't know who I was, right? So understanding myself before I could interact with people was a big thing for me. But like I was saying, I'm very passionate about people, and I can relate to a lot of people, and I can make other people feel very comfortable as well. What I've learned about people is that, everyone's different, right? I'm learning that everyone's different and everyone grows differently. You can't change anybody. You can't control anybody. People will change themselves, right? I've learned that, my life isn't the only life that matters. From being passionate about people, I've learned to have a lot of gratitude for my life, because, there's people out there that genuinely don't have anything. And to sit here and cry about my little ass problems is very unfair to other people who have big problems that I would never trade my life for. You feel me? Just understanding that, my life, just understanding gratitude and how much that has affected me is a major thing. I love people. I love all my friends, and I love good people. I'm also understanding that people put on masks. People try to be someone they're not all the time. People really aren't who you think they are. We all have these versions of other people in our head, and it's just truly not true. You don't know who someone is until you get to know them. And I'll tell you one shift in my head that kind of did it for me, right? So I joined boxing in May, right? I joined boxing, and once I started learning how to fight, I got in my first fight in that boxing gym. I've never been in a fight before, but I'm a good person. I don't do anything wrong. I stay out of drama, and I'm not really in a lot of conflict. So my whole life, I wasn't really a fighter. I wasn't really fighting people or anything like that. So I can't relate to people who have. Going into that boxing gym and entering that ring for the first time, I got my ass beat. I'm not even gonna lie. I got my ass beat, right? I did. And I was tired as fuck. Shout out to all the boxers, because that shit's not easy. You gotta be really in shape for that. But, I got my ass beat, and I just remember like thinking to myself like, damn, no one has ever messed with me. And it's not the fact, and it could be the fact that, they might think I could beat their ass. Sometimes when I'm out in public, like I might act a certain way to intimidate other people so they don't mess with me, right? But from that alone, I realized that a lot of it is just fake. A lot of people don't know how to fight. And I learned that a lot of people are just faking. A lot of people are just wearing masks to cover up for who they truly are. After I learned how to fight, like actually learn how to fight, I realized that people don't know how to fight. Like the average person definitely has no idea how to fight at all. Learning how to box has taught me that people are fake. They're pretending a lot of the time. They're putting on this act. They're trying to be intimidating. Another thing I learned is that, that I realized is that, big groups of people, like people who jump people, if you roll in a big group, chances are that these people in these groups are, they're scary. They don't know how to fight, and that's why they jump you, because you can't do anything if there's fucking 5 of you, right? You just physically can't. So they roll in these big groups because they're scary. They wouldn't know how to act if they were alone. They don't know how they would defend themselves if they were alone. So now when I look out into the world, I'm not really pretending to be intimidating anymore. I don't have that mask anymore, because it's like, now I know if that were to ever happen, if I were to ever get into an altercation where I had to fight someone, it's like I know how to defend myself. I know how to actually fight, and I can do it the right way. Whereas other people can't say that. Other people, they just act a certain way so you don't mess with them. They may say something, and this is why actions speak louder than the words. Like someone could say the meanest things to you, but they still won't touch you, because they just don't know how to fight, and they don't know if you can fight. I guess it kind of goes with sports, but it taught me, it taught me confidence. It taught me how to protect myself, and along with basketball and football, like you just do hard work and you get to a certain level and you compete with other people. I want to add one thing about people. I work to be a leader, right? I work to be a leader, and growing up to the person I am today, I think my main goal is to be the best leader I can be. When you're younger, you hear the word leader and you kind of like want to laugh a little bit. You want to joke about it a little bit. But being a leader, doing the right thing and leading by example is truly the best way to live. And just by me doing that and staying to my own lane, being in my own lane and improving myself and my mindset and, just becoming a better person for myself, that has brought me so far in this life, just because other people look up to you, other people ask you for advice, other people look for you to lead and lead by example, right? I think that this path that I'm on is great. I think this path that I'm on is true to me because I'm passionate about people and I want to help as many people as I can. So being a leader is the best way to live. And you lead by example, by doing the things you tell yourself you're gonna do, by working hard, by doing the right things and having good morals and having respect, right? These are what make you a leader. Being knowledgeable, being smart, right? But that's all I have for you guys today. This was like a fucking 35-minute video or some shit like that. I don't even know. But that's what I have for you guys today. Thank you guys for watching. Donnie, and I'm out this bitch. Peace.